Wholesalers, it's Rob Shore at Wholesaler Masterminds, and you may be thinking to yourself, Rob, you're thinking, what do you have besides this amazing podcast? And I'm so glad you asked. Wholesaler Masterminds has an assortment of product and services all designed around the art, science, and lifestyle of wholesaling. As an example, we have coaching services designed to help you power wash your practice, whether you have 2 years or 22 years. We'll offer you speaking live engagements at divisional or national sales meetings. Our scheduling service has dedicated professionals trained in the art of getting you more appointments, Wholesaler Mastermind schedulers. Our Speakers Bureau brings you amazing speakers and processes to get better return on investment out of those speakers. And finally, our partnership, our newest partnership with Allego. If you have Allego and want to get the Wholesaler Masterminds channel on your Allego platform, please let us know. Wholesaler Masterminds, happy to bring you this podcast and so much more. Wholesaler Masterminds, the art, science, and lifestyle of wholesaling. You ever had this happen to you? You walk out of an advisor's office, you get in the car, you look in the rearview mirror, metaphorically or literally, and you think to yourself, what in the hell just happened in there? That meeting just ended with a thud. That's what I like to call it. It ended with a thud. And my question is, how do you make sure that what happens after you walk out of the advisor's office is clearly understood between both parties so that there is some specific intention wrapped around the outcome of that meeting? That's what we're going to talk about today. Welcome to the only podcast on the planet dedicated to exploring the art, science, and lifestyle of wholesalers and their leaders. This is the new Wholesaler Masterminds radio show. I'm your host, the founder of Wholesaler Masterminds, Rob Shore. Wholesalers, welcome back to the new Wholesaler Masterminds radio show. Jimmy Pomerance brings over 20 years of experience teaching, training, and coaching sales professionals across many industries, but specifically and especially the financial services industry. He served as National Sales Training Director for AIG Sun America and Divisional Manager for Sun Life Financial. During those years, he created and instituted several sales training programs for new hires, sales associates, and top management. It was back in 2005 that he took the leap of faith and launched his own entrepreneurial company called Impact Speakers. He now divides his time and energy between motivational speaking engagements and working directly with companies and individuals looking to improve and energize their business through upgrading their presentation, communication, and sales results. Jimmy Pomerance, welcome to the new Wholesaler Masterminds radio show.
Thanks for having me, Rob. I appreciate it.
It's delightful to have you here. So you heard the introduction, this whole notion about ending an appointment with a thud, not really having clarity on what was going to happen after the appointment. And I know that you have a particular expertise and insight into a real kind of a granular nook and cranny that's oh so important, and that is this ability to be specific. What does that mean here? What are we supposed to do more specifically, and how does that begin to change the trajectory of how we interact in a sales presentation?
So it's really interesting. I was listening to your introduction, and of course, you know, the hair stood back on my neck thinking about that exact thud. But let me take it a step before that. I don't know how many wholesalers feel the thud. In other words, I don't know how many wholesalers actually know that they didn't ask for something to happen, and they don't know that nothing is going to happen. In other words, I get in the car very often, especially when I used to do traveling with wholesalers in the field. And prior to going to the appointment, I would say, okay, what do you want to accomplish there? What is the intent of this particular appointment? And invariably, they would say, I want to sell them. And, you know, tongue firmly implanted in cheek, I would ask them, okay, so could you just be maybe a little more vague on what your intention is? And my feeling is it has to start with the end. Most wholesalers don't know what it is that they want their audience, in this case the advisor, to do when they're done. And if they do know what they want them to do, it's not specific enough. And to me, when I look at specificity, there's certain things I look at. I look at Does the listener know that there's a specific date or time that they need to act? Do they know exactly what to do? Is there a monetary amount, some sort of an amount that they need to look at? Maybe it's a number of clients that they need to give them to run illustrations. Maybe it's a dollar amount. But there's so many what I call specificity checks that I don't think they're getting. So quite candidly, I think the thud doesn't even happen until they finally know what it is that they need to do. Does that make sense?
It does. Let's roll back to a couple of sentences before your end there. Let's go to this whole notion of setting out your intention for the meeting. Why is it so wrong to think my intention is to have the guy sell some of my product?
It is not wrong to think that that's what you want them to do. And I don't even like the word wrong. The improvement from the wholesaler's point of view is it's certain that is what they want them to do. It's just the way they ask it. The analogy I give is like asking a teenage kid to clean their room. And then an hour later, when you look at that room, somehow parents are shocked that the room isn't clean. Invariably, when you ask that kid, I thought I told you to clean your room, and I want you to sell my product, it's so vague that the kid is either going to say, well, I'm going to do it, you didn't say when, or you've got the kid that's going to say, well, it is clean. Well, clean to a kid and clean to a parent is analogous to selling product to the advisor versus, okay, this is the profile of the client that I want you to look for. This is when I want you to contact them. This is how many clients I need. It's just a much more specific call to action. If you tell a kid, listen, it's 5 o'clock right now. By 7 o'clock, I need your room clean, and here's what I mean by clean. Any piece of apparel, if it's dirty, I want it in the hamper. If it's clean, fold it up and put it in a drawer, or put it on a hanger and put it in the closet. Shoes have a shoe plate. Sports equipment, gaming stuff, any kind of schoolwork has a place to put it. Any questions on what I need you to do and when I need you to do it? No? Great. I'll see you in a couple hours. And I'm telling you, even in my sessions, if I have people that are local to the area of the venue that I'm teaching at, people will come in the next day and say, son of a gun, my kid cleaned their room for the first time, simply because of the specificity. So my contention, Rob, if you can get a teenager to clean their room, it must be light years easier to get an advisor to sell your product.
So what are some of the things that you would recommend that I suggest to the advisor? What's some of the language? What's some of the ask that changes it from this kind of loose, globular discussion to something that has better intention and more specific desire, if you will?
I believe a lot of times, and again, this is just from experience traveling in the field, having wholesalers in my seminars, I don't think that most wholesalers really give the advisor a specific, and I keep thinking, I got to come up with a different word than specific, but there's not a profile of what they're looking for. A lot of advisors, if they're not selling annuities, for instance, they don't know what they're looking for. They have no idea who, what an annuity client looks like, feels, what is it that they need. So along with this specificity comes a specific profile of an age, type of money, when are they going to retire, things like that, a time horizon. And I don't think they do that. The other thing is I think that most wholesalers wait until the end, and I'm a firm believer, listen, you've got to listen carefully and go with the flow of what the advisor is saying. But walking in the door, you still have to have your agenda as far as what you want the individual, the advisor to do when you walk out the door, so that there is a time horizon, so that you know this individual knows by a specific date or time they're going to get back to you. Otherwise, you're going to follow up with them. How many clients do you want so that you can run illustrations? Again, the profile of the client. All those variables are things that I think a lot of times wholesalers just walk in kind of loosey-goosey, and when they walk out the door, once they know the specific call to action, then I think they hear that thud that you talked about in the introduction. But if they don't have that game plan, not only are they not going to hear the thud, but they're also not going to hear cha-ching of any kind of business that they're going to probably achieve from that individual advisor.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that you speak about as you speak about presenting, and whether it's presenting to an audience of one or presenting to an audience of many, you speak about the concept of the 3 Bs. Let's talk a bit about those. So the setup is be bold, be brief, be gone, and we need to peel that onion a little bit. So, talk to us about being bold.
So, to me, being bold is that first shot that you have to make an impression. And being bold, how many times, Rob, you've seen it too, where you go to a conference and somebody gets up and I'm here to talk about investing. I'm here to talk about financial complexion of the market. And I know that there's not a single audience member who's going, ooh, go on. Mm-hmm. You had me at investing. Mm-hmm. It's not the case. So to me, the be bold part is having something to have them grab onto. Everybody's got a left side of their brain and a right side of their brain. Well, we know the left side is the logical side. That's the side that you're going to address just when you're talking about product features, benefits, statistics, all the minutia, all the everything that comes with that. The right side of the brain is the creative side. That's the side that gets people to want to do business with us, gets them to want to have a relationship with us. Let's face it, we do business with people that we like and that we trust. And one of the things I really harp on in my seminars is different types of openings. I don't care if it's a joke, an alarming statistic of some sort, a quote, a story, whatever it is. And again, it should be geared to your audience. So if there's more, we talked about one-on-one versus a large group. Let's say it's just a medium-sized group. How much time do you have? How well do you know the people in the room? How intricate is the subject matter? All those variables go into which type of opening you choose. And then as an aside, one of the things I always say when I do teach my seminars is that I always really like to be considered as an ongoing resource subsequent to the class, simply because that happens to be a real love that I have, is coming up with different types of openings. If you think of in fact, when I start my presentation, either when I'm doing a speech or when I'm doing my seminar, the very first exercise I do, and the listeners can even try this right now, is to come up with the most memorable speaker that they've ever heard. And I'm not saying it even has to be somebody famous. It could have been somebody famous, or perhaps it was a clergyman, a friend, a relative, a coach that they had, a teacher. Come up with the name of the most memorable speaker that you've ever heard, and then give me 3 aspects of what made that individual memorable. And invariably, 2 out of 3 of those aspects for each one of those speakers is not going to be what they said, but rather how they said it. Mm-hmm. Their sincerity, their intention level, their humor, their energy, their sincerity, all those variables are the aspects that make them memorable. Yet, when I ask somebody, how much time do you spend on your presentations? Give me a percentage of the time that you spend on the content of what you're going to be saying. People sheepishly look up after they realize that example, and they go, man, I spend 90 to 100% of my time during my preparation of my desired remarks on the content.
Right.
And yet, that particular exercise shows that it's not what you say, but how you say it. Right. So that's the be bold part.
So the second piece is the be brief. And are we just talking about people that have diarrhea of the mouth, or is there another nuance to it? So
when I teach the be brief part, there's simply one sentence I have everybody write down, which is, you only have to tell your listener what they need to hear to get them to do what you want them to do. An example there might be a wholesaler who's talking to an advisor, and just a question he'll ask is, so let me ask you something. How many? Do you have a lot of older clients? And I've heard the advisor say to the wholesaler, you know what? Not really. I'm in my 30s. Most of my clientele are either friends of mine or friends of friends. I really don't have a lot of older clients. And so what does the wholesaler respond with? Oh, because this particular product, we issue till age 90. And I'm sitting there scratching my head going, okay, that's a really interesting tidbit for somebody who is certainly affirmative that they do indeed have older clients. It has nothing to do with this guy who just said he doesn't have any older clients.
Right.
So, again, that second part is just telling the listener. Now, certainly you digress to answer questions, but in your desired remarks and the composition of what you're going to say, just tell them what they need to know to get them to do what you want them to do.
Okay. So that ability to edit and not expound beyond what's necessary.
Exactly.
And the third one you mentioned is be gone. So help me better process that one. What's that one about?
I think that's the one we covered. That's leaving them with a very specific, definitive action step that they like to take, that they need to take in order for them to make money, for them to help their clients. I love to say, hey, Mr. Wholesaler, you were supposed to speak for 20 minutes and you only spoke for 10. Said no advisor ever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the last thing I want to touch on before we go is this notion of, as you say, your personal signature. And what does it mean to have a personal signature? How do you instruct people to develop that personal signature?
So the personal signature is really not your overall personality. If you think of two different musicians, you think of somebody, maybe a current singer, and you think of somebody like a Sinatra. They could sing the same song, but if you think of somebody like a Sinatra with the syncopation and the rests between the notes and so on, that's what I refer to personal signature as. And we have components that we use that could either really enhance our presentation, or we have the ability to really distract the audience. And that's things like in our speech pattern, speaking too quickly. Perhaps it's way too many filler words, some of the things that some of the youth say now as far as filler words and so on. It could be the eye contact, where you have one person that has fleeting eye contact, the other one really looks at you when they're talking to you. The movement around the room, that's purposeful movement, but not pacing and shifting weight and so on. The hands flying. I want gestures. We use gestures for emphasis and to describe and to visualize, but when the hands start flying, it's really just kind of background noise. All those things make up your personal signature, and then you throw in how you say what you say with the different types of openings and so on. And let's face it, everybody's different. People tell the same joke. You know that people are different. So gravitate towards the things that you know you're good at, and your audience will be much more receptive to those things because that is your personal signature. So don't be somebody or try to be somebody that you're not, nor when I teach my seminars do I want everybody to walk out being an automaton and presenting the same way. The structure might be similar, but the way they present, their personal signature is different because by definition it's called a personal signature.
Wholesaler's Jimmy Pomerance is with Impact Speakers. He is the owner, operator, and resident expert. We're talking about the notion of being intentional, that is to say, to be specific with what you believe is supposed to happen before you go into the meeting and making sure that it's set up and constructed properly within the context of how that advisor meeting goes. The notion of be bold, be brief, and be gone. And then making sure that all of the elements about your presentation are accretive to your personal signature. Jimmy Pomerance, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Rob. I really appreciate it.
Wholesalers, come back next time for another episode of the new Wholesaler Masterminds radio show. You'll find all of our content at wholesalermasterminds.com, and the podcast can be found at iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play.